Hey now, we are getting over, and I am the Silver King, Adam Silverstein, here to lead you through these hard times. Dada, with episode 778 of your favorite professional wrestling podcast. That's right, Getting Over is back once again, and it is Thursday, so you know exactly what that means. We are here to break down everything that happened across the last week in NXT and AEW, but not only that, we have a bit of news at the start of the show covering some people in WWE and AEW as well. So a little longer show than usual, at least in terms of the amount of content that we will be discussing on this episode. Because of that, off the top, let's not waste any time. The Getting Over Wrestling Podcast, you know it, you love it, you also know
it's all about Defy.
So head over to Apple Podcasts and Spotify, leave a 5-star rating on Apple, take a little extra time, leave a 5-star written review. If you do, we will read it live right here on the show. Don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube at Getting Overcast. Follow us on social media at Getting Overcast on Twitter, at Getting Over on Blue Sky. You know everything that you get there. And please don't forget,
I happen to love the number 5.
Sure hope you do as well. $5 a month, $50 for the entire year. You can become an official Getting Overhead. Just visit buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. Sign up. You'll get bonus audio, the fastest 5 minutes in professional wrestling, instant reactions to every major show, exclusive news analysis posts every week. Again, that is buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. If you can't tell from my voice and maybe even my demeanor as we get into this show, I'm pretty exhausted. It's been a long week. Wednesday with the WWE ESPN news really threw me for a loop. I wasn't planning to do a show. I had a full day of work, so it was pretty much impossible to fit all of that stuff into what was already happening throughout my day. But we did get you an instant reaction episode, and I didn't want to forget to mention that off the top. If you have not listened to our instant reactions to the WWE ESPN deal, we pretty much answer all of your questions about the deal. We give you every bit of information that we knew. And look, I'm not trying to pull like a Barry Horowitz here, but I'm going to pat myself on the back because we had the most accurate and deep information on this deal that I saw, period. The trade journals, other wrestling media, other news media, sports media. I believe Getting Over led the way on this story. And the ratings, the listenership for that episode definitely goes to prove that to some degree. And I want to shout out a lot of organizations out there that gave us credit for our reporting, because especially in wrestling media, that doesn't frequently happen. And not, the wrestling media didn't necessarily give us credit, but places like Awful Announcing and some other podcasts and shows did. And we greatly appreciate that. We're not here to be newsbreakers. That's not our job. But, we do want to clarify things that happen in this world of wrestling. And this WWE ESPN deal was the perfect opportunity for us to step in and do that. So let me just also remind you that, look, we have 3 other WWE episodes that you can listen to if you have not already. Instant analysis separately for night 1 and night 2 of SummerSlam. We taped those over the weekend. They're in the podcast feed. And then on Tuesday, our WWE SummerSlam Fallout Edition, where we cover everything that happened across Raw and SmackDown. Guess what? Seth Rollins' group was actually named The Vision. That was like my major headline because I've been asking for that for 3 months now, 4 months now. It's been a huge pain in my ass. It finally happened. We were able to discuss that on Tuesday. And of course, the WWE and ESPN instant reaction as well. So it's 4 total episodes you can listen to about WWE and everything surrounding it if you happen to miss them. But I mentioned we covered every detail on that WWE ESPN deal on Wednesday. At the time, I felt like we did. Unfortunately, there were a couple items we left on the table. So we have NXT and AEW both coming up on the show.
But I'm afraid I've got some news.
Again, following up our reporting from Wednesday about this deal, there were 2 additional questions that came in and I thought were pertinent to the situation that were worth addressing off the top. Someone asked when specifically this deal starts, because the first premium live event that aired on Peacock was actually WrestleMania. It didn't start at the beginning of that year. It started 3 months into the year, 4 months into the year. That is the plan as of right now. WrestleMania 42 is the first guaranteed event to air on ESPN. However, WWE and ESPN, they're exploring their options with Peacock. They want to see if they can flip that switch in January 2026 instead, possibly starting with the Royal Rumble. There's not much reason for Peacock to acquiesce to that request on the surface, But media companies, they get into some real unique horse trading around stuff like this, and it's possible they might be able to come to some type of agreement, especially because both are currently involved with the NFL and NBA. So there could be highlight rights, game choices, scheduling conflicts. There's a lot of things that can be worked out. And if the ask is only for 2 additional WWE Premium Live events, well, it's certainly possible that that might be able to transpire. But of course, as of right now, all that ESPN can guarantee is that they will have WrestleMania 42 and every event onward. The other question posed was whether this may lead to more Sunday PLEs, which I thought was a great question. And it's absolutely possible, particularly during the fall. ESPN has major college football on Saturdays with huge SEC games happening in the afternoon and the evening, which of course are when WWE Premium Live events generally air. Its Sunday slate, however, is barren comparatively. So while WWE would certainly rather go against college than Sunday Night Football from the NFL on NBC, they're not with Peacock anymore, are they? So there's no question that Saturday night has been better for WWE recently. It's worse for the Silver King. It's better for WWE. It gives fans 48 hours to watch on demand before Raw begins, especially if they're unable to watch live. And those numbers have increased markedly on Peacock. But they weren't paying WWE $28 million per PLE night like ESPN is going to. So I would not be surprised if we see a shift here when it makes the most sense. I'm not saying it will happen, but it is possible, especially during the fall. PW Insider reported this week that Roman Reigns has not been written off entirely for the filming of Street Fighter, not yet at least, and that is true. He will actually be making not 1 but 2 WWE television appearances before the month is out. Sources confirmed that to Getting Over on Thursday. Apparently, filming for Street Fighter begins the first week of September. It's going to last about a month for him. Cody Rhodes has a much smaller part. I think it's 7 to 10 days in and out for him. But given Roman won't be on the Paris show, and there's no PLEs in September, Crown Jewel will be less than 2 weeks after his Street Fighter taping schedule concludes. I'm going to assume he returns at Crown Jewel, makes a save, and that builds toward War Games in late November. Buddy Matthews has undergone surgery on his ankle. He's going to be out indefinitely for AEW. It feels like it's been 6 months since that injury happened. Kind of crazy that it took so long for them to realize he wasn't healing well enough and needed to have a surgery. Conversely, it looks like Eddie Kingston is finally back in the ring training for a return. That's obviously great news. We have no idea how long it's going to take him to get back. He had a very, very serious knee injury. AEW has re-signed Willow Nightingale, a total no-brainer. Apparently, they've also re-signed Gates of Agony, according to reports. Aligning with Ricochet, it's the most interesting they've been in their entire AEW careers. So perhaps they may actually be onto something here. I enjoy their wrestling. I just never have a desire to buy into them because their entire career to this point has been start and stop. It's left a lot to be desired. You've never actually been able to take them seriously in the tag team division. But if AEW is re-signing them, then hopefully this tag team division is actually moving in a positive direction with momentum. And we certainly will talk about that a little bit later in the show. As always, on this Thursday episode, really every single episode of the Getting Over Wrestling podcast, but especially this one, there are timestamps in the episode description. So if you only want to listen to the AEW breakdown or the NXT breakdown, you will be able to jump around. As always, though, I hope you listen to the entire show. Kicking off with NXT, Maybelline was the ring mat sponsor for NXT, which I believe is not only the first time that NXT has gotten a sponsor for regular TV, but the first time a product geared towards women has been the primary sponsor of a non-Evolution show. I know there's a lot of qualifiers there when I say that, but it hasn't happened to the best of my knowledge, and that is major. We talked about that coming out of Evolution, how this may just be the start of WWE reaching out to that female demographic when it comes to advertising. Now, we don't give a shit, certainly, how much WWE makes from its ads and its map placements and all that bullshit, but it does speak to the reach of the organization with the female audience if they are actually able to convince sponsors that gear female to come in and pay money to be sponsored in the middle of the ring mat of a wrestling show. That is a pretty big deal if you actually think about it. Top to bottom, this was an excellent episode of NXT. The pacing was ridiculously good. I had major FOMO as it was happening. I was supposed to be there live for the first time since that special show with John Cena and The Undertaker a few years ago. It was like one great thing after another happened on this show that speaks to me personally. And the main event was straight up outstanding. Luckily, I had a couple friends who were able to go. They had a blast. But yeah, this was like a fever dream of an NXT episode. That's when it's at its best. And the whole time I'm sitting on my couch like, man, I really should be there for this. I'd be really excited to see this right now. And unfortunately, I was not there. Tag Team Championship, Hank and Tank defending against Chase U. The challengers did the "so you're saying there's a chance" thing from Dumb and Dumber in a backstage segment. These guys were all shot out of a cannon. Uriah Connor saved his partner, instead getting squashed with Honk Honk and taking the unnamed finisher. The referee, for some unknown reason, pulled his hand up from a 3 count when the dude's shoulders were firmly on the canvas. That required the champions to completely redo the finishing sequence before they got the win. Dark State predictably attacked after the bell, laying out all 5 guys, including Andre Chase, hitting their toss powerbomb finisher on Tank to end it. This match was actually better than I expected when we discussed it last week, but holy shit, was that an all-time referee botch. No idea what dude was looking at there. Dark State coming out, that was easy to see, and there's really no choice, in my opinion, but to strap them up at this point. Hank and Tank, they're mediocre champions at best. Dark State has no momentum. They need it. Winning the titles would be a reason to get them on TV regularly, let them cut promos regularly, and get them featured on this program. I feel like they've been around for 6 months and basically done nothing despite attacking a lot of notable people. It should result, them winning the titles, in interesting booking going forward. I am not completely out on them despite all of my criticisms. There's something about them that works, especially Saquon Sugars and Dion Lennox. Speaking of them, Dark State later cut a backstage promo talking shit. Lennox and Sugars, they led the way with their intensity as usual. They also said they weren't done yet that night. NXT finally listened to your boy right here. They didn't have Cutler James act hard like the rest of them. He made a corny ass comment about being right up people's butts and staying there until they just can't handle it anymore. The crowd reacted like shocked that he actually said that. Then they started laughing at him. The other guys looked at him weird. Then Lennox brought the promo home. And to that, I say,
thank you.
It's been months now that I've talked about making James the outlier of the group. Either a psychopath who didn't speak and did all the wildest shit of the bunch, or more of a comedic relief dork because he frankly stands out visually from the other 3. This was a major step in the right direction for them, and hopefully they just keep compounding on it next week and beyond. Obafemi opened hour 2 asking who out there had the balls to try and end his epic 200-day reign. He assumed it would be no one because he's run through the entire men's division, and the future that they are supposed to be building in Orlando is not looking too bright because of it. Trick Williams answered, countering, he's the real big dog in NXT. He's actually carrying 2 brands at once. Oba made fun of his mannerisms, reminding Trick he's never been able to beat him. Williams said he's a self-made superstar who's improved over the last few months, and he's the one to take him down. He even called himself him, just like Carmelo Hayes. Out came Javon Evans, calling Trick annoying and goofy, saying Oba is the biggest dog in the yard, especially because Trick barely defends the TNA title. Williams shot back that he should mind his business while grown folk were talking, so Evans challenged him for a number 1 contendership for the NXT title. Femi tried to get the match made immediately. He was all about it. Trick obviously denied, demanded it happen in 2 weeks in Philadelphia, and just when this seemed to be over, Moose from TNA showed up. He reminded he'd be taking the TNA title at some show 10 days from now. And then again, when it all seemed to be over, Dark State attacked all 4 guys in the ring. The big dogs easily dispatched of them, throwing Sugars clean out of the ring into his boys. This seriously may have been the best NXT men's division segment in like a year, at least for the main event. Maybe longer than a year, if we're being frank. Oba completely commanded the stage. Trick was on point, flashing his charisma. Javon put his best foot forward. Moose basically did nothing, but they needed him out there to even the sides with Dark State. Using an NXT talent instead of Moose would have theoretically put that person in the title picture with the other 3, and that's clearly something they didn't want to do. It seems obvious that an 8-man is going to come at some point, at least it did in that moment. I figured we would get it next week on TV, but it's really smart to keep having Trick like dip into this Carmelo stuff because he's basically becoming the egotistical asshole he criticized Melo for being, which is why I still believe reuniting them on the main roster would be great for both of them. They could be an incredible tag team. They would get immensely over thanks to Trick's charisma. And then you could have Melo turn heel on him at some point. You basically, I don't want to say repeat the exact storyline, but you pretty much do what you did in NXT on the main roster, and they would both be so freaking over coming out of that. Later backstage, Ava set the number one contendership between Javon and Trick in Philly, as well as the expected 8-man between all those dudes next week. She also booked a tag team title match between Hank and Tank and Dark State at Heatwave. All appropriate and sensible. Those were the expectations coming out of these series of segments. And again, even though I'm not a huge fan of Hank and Tank, you have Dark State win the titles there. You know, Javon becomes number one contender. You get Javon and Obafemi and Trick's kind of out there angry. Or you do a triple threat, even though I wish they wouldn't run back the triple threat. Regardless, that's some interesting booking. This men's division actually feels like it's going somewhere. First time in a long time. Thea Hale fought Nia Jax. I could have sworn this was already set as the Lash Legend match. I guess not. Thea built this on social media, but it was largely without reason. This was Nia's first NXT match, by the way, in 4 years. Jax dominated every phase of the match, but Hale refused to go down despite getting squashed over and again. Thea tried like 6 different moves, but Nia kept countering until she ran herself into the ring post. Hale finally landed a tornado DDT for a 2 count. She added 2 different sentons, but Nia dragged her off the top rope, ran her into the corner thrice, and hit Annihilator to win. Jax cut a promo on Legend in the post-match, saying she wouldn't let Lash make a name off her back when she hasn't done shit yet in her career. Legend came out running hot, seeming as if she was cutting a real fiery promo, but she completely botched the closing line. And you could see her in her head say, well, I screwed that up. F it. She just throws the mic down and starts brawling with Nia. This went way, way longer than I expected the match I'm talking about at the opening bell. Thea sold her ass off. Nia was respectful, giving the neophyte a decent run of offense late in the match. Frankly, this did more for Hale than pretty much anything that's happened for her since exiting Chase U. Jax's promo after the bell was strong and passionate. She's frequently lacked that in her voice on the main roster, so that was cool to hear. Legend's screw up is precisely why it continues to feel like she's not ready for prime time just yet. She's got great size. Her in-ring has improved massively, even if it's not all the way there. But she's not a total package yet. She can't bring that woman onto the main roster and have her be a character that people are going to buy into if she cannot cut a live promo. Stax was training backstage when Ariana Grace approached him just to check in. Notable, he is still listed as Heritage Cup champion when it seems like that was completely dropped and the cup is disappeared. I think it was thrown into a river, right? He also told her not to call him Channing Lorenzo anymore, so it appears as if Stax is now his name on its own. This happened as Lash and Nia brawled into the picture. That went down later as well, with the Nia Lash match officially being made for next week. Pairing Stax with his real-life girlfriend, it makes a lot of sense. He needs someone to play off. Ariana was not doing the dumb pageant girl gimmick, so I figured, maybe she's getting refreshed as well. So we had Yoshiki Inamura against Stax. That, of course, got built last week. Inamura entrance got stopped cold by Stax's attack. He dominated the early going until Inamura got into a sumo stance and smacked the shit out of him. There was an incredible reference by Corey Graves relating Yoshi in this moment to E Honda from Street Fighter. It was literally the perfect comparison. Yoshi again slapped Stax as he was talking shit to him, so Ariana came down, slapped him back. As the referee ejected her, Josh Briggs ran in from behind, caught Inamura blind with a lariat, and of course, Stax got the win. This was chaotic in its quickness, almost as if the show was running long, like a minute, and they had to cut some time from the segment. The combination of Stax and Grace, it just works. And yes, it's clear her gimmick is being progressed. Briggs was the least impressive part of all of this, and that's really tough for me to say because I had been extremely high on him from the moment he debuted in NXT, from Evolve, even in the tag team. I just looked at him and I was like, this guy can actually be something. But ever since he's kind of been forced to go it on his own with Yoshi and cut promos a little bit as a heel, it's just not clicking. And I'm extremely surprised by that. North American Championship was the main event. Sol Ruka defending against Tatum Paxley. Tatum was hyped up backstage, so Izzy Dame calmed her down, saying the calling fully has her back, and she'll never be alone again if she can win the championship. Zarya told Sol that she would basically get her back against the entire calling. That way she didn't have to worry and she could focus on the match. This main evented with the fans doing the wave for Ruka as she did a surfboard and a pendulum over the top rope X Factor. Sol took out Culling with a moonsault ringside, only to eat a draping neckbreaker across the middle rope. Ruka cartwheeled as a counter to a DDT before hitting a backpack slam and a running knee that caught Paxley real strong in the chin. Sol took Tatum off the ropes with a sunset flip powerbomb, but Paxley dodged her into the post for a deep 2.9 roll-up. Tatum appeared to hit her finisher, but Sol actually countered it into a pinning combination for a near fall. She missed a moonsault, but speared Tatum into the corner, first botching some type of springboard attempt, and then Tatum took her off the top rope with a full avalanche neckbreaker that sent the crowd into a frenzy and censors into a 30-second mute because heaven forbid we hear shit in the background. Sean Spears tried to hand Paxley the loaded doll. Dame attempted to prevent him from doing so. In the background, Lash and Nia started brawling down to the ring as Tatum found the doll and was considering using it. Legend speared Jax through the barricade that distracted Paxley, and Ruka caught Tatum with Soul Snatcher to retain the title and end an absolute batshit crazy main event. Ironic that the booking I pitched on Tuesday's show, having Sheamus and Rusev interrupt the main event on Raw, like Peter Griffin and the Chicken on Family Guy, is exactly how the main event of NXT ended. This simultaneously made me happy and it hurt my heart. It seemed like the perfect opportunity to strap up Tatum and protect Soul. But at the same time, you really want Paxley to win clean as a babyface, not cheating with the doll as a heel in the calling. She again proved in this match everything we have ever said about her. Paxley is a tremendous in-ring talent and a terrific character who has fans firmly behind her. Sooner than later, Shawn Michaels is going to need to get his head out of his ass and capitalize on this woman, and it better be sooner at this juncture. The only flaw in this match was Soul's one springboard botch. I thought she was going to spring into a Soul Snatcher, but I guess it looks like she was just trying to get up there for the neckbreaker spot. Shit happens. Really not a big deal. The chaotic element of Legend and Jax added insane energy to a match that was already exceptional. This could have been on Raw, SmackDown, Evolution. Fans would have gone crazy for it. You don't even need to know the background of the women involved. You would have loved this match. There was so much attention on the big free agent signings, Jordan Grace coming in, Stephanie Vaquer, Julia, now Blake Monroe as well. But these two, they're the future of the WWE women's division. I'm not saying the others aren't, but these two are younger. They're developing talents. I hope this is the first of many matchups between them over the next 10 years. They deserve every plaudit available for this bout. 4 stars, A-, one of the best NXT TV matches of the entire year. Coming out of this, Tatum's character has got to be adjusted. Not refreshed, just adjusted. Specifically, it's time for the dolls to go away. It's been a crutch. She no longer needs them, and it may be preventing her from actually getting taken seriously as a legitimate title contender. We had Miles Bourne against Lexis King. Bourne dapped up with Tavian Heights backstage. Both guys pleased they were free from NQCC, which, again, wasn't exactly a heel faction keeping them hostage or anything like that. Miles caught Lexis flying with an anti-air dropkick. King later stomped his head into the steel steps, which got a ton of heat because it played into his deafness. Bourne answered in kind, focusing on King's head with a few more moves before hitting his equivalent of a zigzag for the win. Great match story playing into their feud, at least to this point. Miles looks strong bell to bell, continues to have his arrow pointing up in a major way. Not sure what's next for him. Maybe a run at the North American Championship. I could see that. I'm not impressed with the zigzag as his finisher. I'd like to see something that doesn't remind of another wrestler. Ren Sinclair backstage told Charlie Dempsey that they'll have more quality time together. Dempsey said he must be too good as a coach because he's training these guys and making them able to basically beat him and break away. Sinclair saying that it always cheers her up to believe in Joe Hendry, who suddenly appeared out of the bottom part of a refrigerator, which was just hysterical. Dempsey said Hendry was the last guy that NXT needs, as Ren hysterically pulled off her jacket to reveal she was actually wearing matching Hendry clothes. Hendry then handed Dempsey the same uniform. He tossed it aside, saying Hendry goes viral because he's actually a virus. Ren said the only way to make Charlie happy is to get him in the ring, and obviously Joe had no problem doing that. This segment was awesome. If you watched this and you didn't have a smile on your face, something is wrong with you. Hendry popping out of the refrigerator was amazing. Ren singing for him and then dressing like him, the smile on her face. I'm starting to get a little bit obsessed with Ren, if I'm being honest. She is such a captivating, fun, entertaining TV character. She shines brighter than anyone else who joins her in any segment. She frequently serves as like the storytelling linchpin of these segments. And there's just something frankly so cute and like pure about her. It's tough to explain exactly why, but maybe she has like little sister energy, even though I've never had one and I don't have any siblings or anything like that. Hell, maybe I have a crush on her. Who knows? Regardless, this was a super fun segment. The crowd popped huge for Hendry actually doing his appearance gimmick. The relationship between Ren and Charlie advanced, and a big match was booked for next week. This was standard NXT fare, accomplishing a ton in a short period of time. Speaking of doing that, Ethan Page got a major consistent heat promo coming out of his Canadian, North American title change. He called himself the greatest of all time. He even referred to Bret Hart only as the best there was. Page said he had eyes on devouring other continents one by one, but he asked fans to stand as he sang, "Oh, Canada." Heights interrupted, putting himself over, representing Team USA at the Olympics, saying he needs to knock Page off his maple leaf perch. The crowd was fully behind Tavion. Page said he just crawled out of NQCC, so he needs to learn to walk before he learns how to run and dance with him. Out of nowhere, Chelsea Green suddenly showed up in this red dress.
Gonna look good, but she's got me saying, "Hey now!"
Secret Hervis was in tow. She called him Tavy off and put over Ethan as a great Canadian, saying the best American heroes come from Canada, and he's second to her. Green got in his face, saying he didn't have the balls to hit a woman, to which Heights swung at Page and promised to find a woman who would take her down. This was so unexpected, and again, so much fun. It would obviously make perfect sense for Sinclair to just team with Heights, but I guess since he's separate from NQCC, maybe he needs to go with someone else. Perhaps this is how Tyra May Steele gets another match because she's also an Olympian and basically her entire gimmick is America. That could definitely play. Calling him Tavy off was hysterical. Heights did a great job on the mic in his first real shot. He's nowhere near ready to be a title holder or main eventer or the main roster, but for his first in-ring solo promo, totally held his own. Page having backing from both Vanity Project and Secret Hervis, it's really flexing his strength and dominance across divisions and brands. And I really can't remember the last time a woman interrupted a men's segment like this, especially to steal the spotlight. I don't want to say it was revolutionary or anything. That feels like a stretch, but it was unique. So this whole deal was really fun from start to finish. Ricky Saints did a sit-down interview saying he has had a target on his back since he joined NXT. He claimed superstars were jealous about what he's already accomplished in his career, and they're looking to take his place. Saints contended that Page has been in the game for 18 years, so he realizes he needs to dominate NXT to get where he wants to go, presumably the main roster being where he wants to go. Conversely, Jasper Troy is just making his way. He's learning everything as he goes. Everyone wants to get to Monday night or Friday night, and while Ricky knows that he'll be there sooner than later, he doesn't want to do that without first holding the NXT title. Then he challenged Troy for the Philly show, guaranteeing a different outcome this time. This may have been Saints' best overall speaking segment since he debuted in WWE. Not just cocky, but confident, poised, focused. If he's serious about winning the NXT title, he may be down there for a good while because I don't see how that title circles around to him unless Javon fails to win an extended feud with Oba where they want to save Javon to be the one who beats Ricky for the title, which is probably a little bit more believable than having Javon, a relative neophyte wrestler who's also much smaller, go up and beat Oba Femi. But it's certainly possible that he can do that as well. This was a big week for the men's division. Continues to point up in a serious way. The main event and mid-card, they both feel more filled out than they have been in about a year. And the Philly show in 2 weeks, that is stacked. JC Jane backstage was displeased at the results of last week's show, particularly Jada Parker still coming after her NXT title. Ash by Elegance's manager from TNA then showed up. He threatened Jane that Ash would go win the TNA title from her, I guess this Thursday on Impact. Then Lainey Reed popped in talking shit, saying it should be Jasmine next polishing her titles. And Jane was like, yeah, Jasmine, why don't you go polish my titles? It really seems like NXT is trying to split Nyx from Fatal Influence the way they just keep trying to wedge drive with her. Maybe she costs JC the title one day. In terms of Lainey Reed, look, she's young. It's really early in her career. But I have a pretty strong track record on this show, knowing who's going to work and who is not. And just frankly, when it comes to Lainey Reed, at least for now.
Stop trying to make fetch happen. It's not going to happen.
Kalani Jordan fought Blake Monroe. Lonnie hit a handspring jumping stunner, which was really stupid because, look, the handspring, if it doesn't add momentum to a move, you shouldn't be doing it. It's as simple as that. She dominated at the onset, landing an Olympic slam, but Blake caught her flying with a headbutt and added a big-time pump knee. As she set up for the finish, Jordan Grace stormed out in a neck brace, chased Monroe into the parking lot, where she jumped into a somehow waiting Keon black SUV. Of course, that led to Jordan winning via countout. The only disappointment here was the length of the match. They were running real hot together. It was the first time we truly got to see Blake wrestle singles in an extended stretch, and I just wanted more of it, and maybe that will come in the future. The SUV thing, it probably needed to be a little bit explained by Monroe entering from her car, so we knew it existed as a quick exit for her. It was way too convenient to just not only be in the parking lot, but be there with the ignition on, ready to drive off as soon as she ran out there when Jordan suddenly attacked. But it was funny seeing like Blake nope her ass out of there. And it was one of the funnier countouts in recent memory. Later backstage, Grace learned from Ava she would get Monroe one-on-one at NXT Heatwave. Ava sympathized with Jordan given everything Blake said about her last week, saying on behalf of a lot of women in the locker room, she wanted to see Blake get her ass kicked, despite the fact, of course, that she's supposed to be unbiased. I'd have liked Grace to get an opportunity to speak out for herself against Monroe, just given the way she was body shamed last week. With 19 days until the show, at least as of NXT on Tuesday, I guess 17 when we tape this podcast, there's still plenty of time for them to do that, but I would have liked her to be able to speak immediately after an entire segment body shamed her. Lola Vice put Lonnie over backstage when Jane and Fallon Henley ran her down for getting lucky to win via countout. Jane laughed in their face, saying they would never hold the big titles like her. When Nyx returned with those titles polished, she told her girls that she got Ava to put them in a tag team match next week, and now she knows who their opponents should be. Yeah, there's definitely a wedge being driven between them, no question. Maybe it's going to be Henley taking the NXT title off Jane after all, and Nyx helps her do it. I don't know, but here's hoping because Fallon absolutely deserves it. So look, that wraps up NXT. Like I said, it was a fast-paced, chaotic, exciting, funny, entertaining episode of television. Really, top to bottom, I don't have many notes outside of those few little criticisms I had for each segment individually. Let's go ahead and move over to AEW. Of course, we're going to talk Dynamite and Collision all together right here. 7 of 11 AEW matches this week were storyline relevant. That's 64%, and that is exactly where AEW needs to be. I will note 3 of them were part of a tag team tournament, so you get a little grace from that. And a couple others were extremely thin in terms of them being relevant to things that were actually happening, continuously on television. But still, 64% is 64%, and that was hugely positive while watching this product over the last week. On Collision, Jon Moxley opened the show angry that Darby Allin is alive and back in AEW. He showed up on a balcony, Darby did. Death Riders started searching for him. And then like 10 minutes later backstage, Allin attacked Moxley from behind, chloroformed him. It lasted 15 seconds. We never saw the result of that chloroforming, why it happened, what he was trying to accomplish. That was it. On Dynamite, Moxley beat Speedball Mike Bailey in 14 minutes to open the show. The explanation, for this is that Mox stormed into a production meeting and wanted an opponent. Seriously, that was the explanation. We didn't even get to see that happen on screen. There was one spot where, due to camera work, it looked like Mox teleported from the ringside next to Bailey to behind him over the ropes in the ring. That was pretty funny. Marina Shafir swept out Bailey's leg ringside. Kevin Knight went face-to-face with her, and then Mox. Speedball did his flip-over knee drop on Mox hanging on the barricade, which was really sick. When Wheeler Yuta interfered, Darby kidnapped him from over the barricade with chloroform. Speedball got a 2.99 and then hit Time Adventure, his finisher, for a less close call. But Mox did an armbar into a bulldog choke and then Death Rider and got the win. Great match that had no reason for happening, even less reason for being 50-50, and even less reason for being 14 minutes long. That was frankly absurd. I'm going to give it a B+ because it really got the crowd going, but it definitely lacked, and you gotta remember the circumstances here of this guy was just your dominant champion going toe-to-toe with Hangman Page. He shouldn't be going toe-to-toe with Mike Bailey. By the way, it does need to be said, AEW has drastically reduced the number of wrestling matches it's putting on television. There were 4 matches on a 2-hour Dynamite from the company that claims we're where the best wrestle. And I'm not saying that that's bad, only having 4 matches on a 2-hour show. It's just surprising that AEW only had 4 matches on a 2-hour show. And that certainly needs to be clarified. No question about that. The Riders later found Yuta in a body bag laying in the parking lot. Taped on his head was a sign that read Forbidden Door. And Darby then just drove off in the background. This stuff was all fine. No clue where Claudio Castagnoli's been. Why has Gabe Kidd disappeared? Is Pac ever going to come back? Why are they a trio all of a sudden? It just feels like Darby needs a lot more agency in this feud ever since he's returned. There's time to go, and I suppose opportunities for him to cut promos, but it's been weeks. I'd really like to hear from this dude sooner than later. On Dynamite, Hurt Business was backstage. Why they don't have every week an ornate, luxurious dressing room, I have no idea. They were literally in a white cinder block closet with one leather couch. If I opened my arms, and I don't have a wingspan like an NBA player, trust me, it was probably the size of this entire room. Anyway, after saying nothing, MJF came in trying to convince MVP that they can thrive together without Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin. MVP said the whole point of Hurt Syndicate, I think I just called them business earlier too, I apologize. The whole thing of Hurt Syndicate is we hurt people. We, as a group, not individually. MVP said he loves MJF like a little brother. He gave him a thumbs down, officially excommunicating him from the group. Then he said he hopes MJF doesn't win the AEW title, because if he does, Lashley's going to come after him at that point, and it will be personal. This with MJF and the Hurts was much better than the prior 2 weeks. The reasoning for extricating him from the group, it's perfectly sound. MJF is selfish. The Hurts have operated as a unit the entire time. But it is still odd that AEW just punted this entire deal after taking so freaking long to make it happen in the first place. There must be a storytelling reason for it, but as of right now, I don't know what it is. On Dynamite, Mark Briscoe fought MJF in the main event. Opening the show was MJF holding a CMLL title he apparently won over the prior week. He was annoyed that Hangman Page will not give him a title match, saying he will relegate Briscoe back to his chicken farm as a blue-collar bitch after their fight. Page later interrupted a Briscoe promo, saying he's always admired the family, but especially how Mark has handled himself over the last couple of years, presumably since his brother's death. He wished him luck and said he hoped he would become number one contender. Briscoe kept trying and failing to land Froggy Bow. He had a really cool somersault tope suicida. MJF did a real nice front lift thrust kick and then a Boston Crab. There was a convoluted sequence on the ropes before Briscoe hit Froggy Bow on his 6th attempt for a delayed cover. Then he tried another through a table ringside, but MJF easily got out of dodge. The finish was MJF hitting Heatseeker for the 1-2-3 with Briscoe putting his foot on the rope at 3, but the referee being completely blind to it, choosing to not even consider that this dude who's landing near the ropes might try to use the ropes. I mean, it's ridiculous. MJF attacked after the bell with the Dynamite Diamond Ring, so Hangman Page came out to brawl with him briefly, giving Briscoe time to blade. They brawled a second time. MJF again got out of dodge. I had really high expectations for this match. I thought it was mediocre at best. The entire story was the Froggy Bow, yet there was a simple kick out once it was hit. I can suspend disbelief for a veteran referee making a rookie mistake, but why exactly did Briscoe need to be protected here? The only reason to do that is if you're going to make a triple threat. And frankly, that would be a better match than one-on-one with Page, especially because MJF already has the open contract. So maybe that's the play and they're going triple threat and this will make sense. But on the surface, I saw this and I was just like, I don't really know why that was necessary. On Collision, Swerve Strickland cut a promo saying he wouldn't let the Young Bucks abuse the Outrunners and he wouldn't let Kazuchika Okada meddle in his business. Short, left a little bit of storytelling to be desired, but literally the only character work that he had been able to do to that point since All In. Don Callis later cut a promo on Okada's behalf while wearing 2 of his 3 belts. Callis said Okada is classier and a better big match wrestler before running down Prince Nana as basically a piece of shit. Okada then said he didn't want to talk, but just fight at Forbidden Door. Bitch, because he says bitch now. Putting Okada with Callis, it has been such a total and utter failure. Okada never needed him. He speaks well enough English to carry himself. Callis detracted from the Kenny Omega feud, and now he's stunting his development as a wrestler in America. He was so much more interesting in New Japan, and that really should not be the case because American wrestling is so much more about characters. On Dynamite, Swerve cut a promo expecting a clean match with Okada due to the rules around the title, except that, was not the case when Okada fought Omega. Anyway, Swerve said he's badly hurt people that he actually likes, and while Okada may be a great big match wrestler, he has no love for him whatsoever. Swerve said it's not only a big match because they're both great and the fans want it, but because he's dangerous and he needs to make right the fact that he's lost his last 2 major matches. Strong solo promo from Swerve here. Would have liked a little bit more variety. It felt like he said the same thing twice consecutively, but the point was made and his motivation was set. On Collision, Athena backstage said she realized last week that she doesn't respect Toni Storm, which will make it even easier to take her title. She said she will sign the contract in advance, setting their match at Forbidden Door in London. I don't mind the pre-announce of the title match because AEW really should not treat these contracts like they're Money in the Bank. I do mind such an announcement being made in a backstage segment on the B show instead of after, let's say, a live in-ring beatdown on the A show. It screams that AEW just does not value this division on par with the men because almost every segment between these two, especially when it comes to building their characters and their actual rivalry, it's been happening on Collision and it should be happening on Dynamite. On Dynamite, Alex Windsor beat Billy Starks Queen Aminata and Sky Blue in a 4-way to determine a number 1 contender for Mercedes Moné at Forbidden Door. This will be another 4-way match, interpromotional, for the TBS title on that show. Preceding this was a promo where Tony basically used the words rubbing off and tits or something like that. The booking of Windsor, it has been crazy since she debuted. This is going to be her second title match in as many months, despite her entering the promotion without a single AEW win to her name. She's beaten nobodies, and she's gotten an ROH women's title shot and now a TBS title match. Meanwhile, she's also getting rubbed from Tony. I wonder why Alex Windsor, a capable but unimpressive wrestler, of all people, is getting this kind of push. Oh yeah, there was also an all-time bad botch by Sky during this match, attempting Code Blue ringside. The finish was Storm stopping Athena from interfering and Windsor winning via small package, which was even more ridiculous that she couldn't win a number 1 contendership in decisive fashion with a finisher over 3, I'm not going to call them nobodies, but low-carders in this division. On Dynamite, Mercedes, now with 8 belts, was filleted by Renee Paquette in the parking lot for having the best women's match of all time with Tony. I don't mind promotions putting over their own matches, but this was like so over the top. It was ridiculous. Mercedes called her a mark, which, okay, yeah, fair enough. Maybe that's why she was being over the top. Monet came out after the match with all her titles. She did a stare down with Windsor. Storm entered the ring, so Athena caught her blind with O-Face, distracting Windsor, who took a backstabber from Monet. Then Mercedes and Athena stared at one another, looking down at each other like they had wads of chewing tobacco in their mouths. Solid way to set up an all-star tag team match. Didn't move me much in terms of the individual feud. On Collision, TNT Championship, Dustin Rhodes against Kyle Fletcher in a street fight. This main evented with Dustin dominating the early going and both guys blading. Crossroads was a near fall, as was a tombstone pile driver into 2 opened chairs. After earlier hitting a code red ringside, Rhodes hit an avalanche Canadian destroyer through a table for a false finish. Avalanche, Canadian destroyer, through a table, false finish. I had to repeat that, just given the absurdity. Dustin then put on a yellow rubber glove with thumbtacks on the palm for a hardcore iron claw. Fletcher did a straight kick low blow, dumped the thumbtacks out only to take a power slam into them. So Rhodes dumped some thumbtacks into Fletcher's tights and rung his bell with a kick. That was an awesome looking spot. Fletcher answered with a screwdriver shot to the head and then started driving it into Rhodes' injured knee. That required the trainer to run into the ring to quote unquote stop the bleeding. Then Fletcher stuck the screwdriver into his knee. It was probably just a pad, but there was not a single speck of blood on the screwdriver when it was removed. Dustin had a last gasp inside cradle, but Fletcher won with a brainbuster. Fletcher then destroyed his knee further using the ring post and a chair. Tremendous main event. Excellent hardcore match. The spot with the tacks in the tights was by far my favorite. Kicking out of that avalanche destroyer through a table was flatly ridiculous. If you want to do that move and you don't want it to end the match, then you don't have Dustin cover, or you have him delay the cover by like 30 seconds. The viciousness going after Dustin's knee, that was done to write him off because apparently he needs surgery, but it also put Fletcher in the position as a major heel, which is important for him moving forward. This was a pay-per-view quality match on TV, and look, I tried not to look at like the way other people grade matches, but this is being massively overrated. Suggesting this match was better than Io Sky and Rhea Ripley at Evolution, or the Seth Rollins, CM Punk, Roman Reigns triple threat at WrestleMania, or John Cena and Cody Rhodes at SummerSlam is frankly absurd. 4.25 stars and an A, the AEW match of the week. Great, worth watching, not even in the conversation for match of the year. It's not a contender by any means. It's not even on the second tier of best matches I've seen this year. So no, this was not a 5-star match, but was it an A? You bet your ass it was. It was great wrestling. On Dynamite, Callis came out saying he was building the largest faction in the history of pro wrestling purely for power. It'd be beneficial to get the entire family in the ring if that's going to be your contention, yet there were only 4 dudes out there in total. Now, perhaps Callis forgot about the existence of the NWO and the Bullet Club, but okay, I digress. Fletcher bragged about retiring Dustin and possibly Adam Cole as well, promising to become the greatest TNT champion of all time. Callis then unveiled a funny painting of them, and they just kind of kept repeating themselves through the end of the segment. This got a lot of heat for me. It would have been perfect for Collision. It was a waste of time on Dynamite. It was boring as sin outside of like the unveiling of the painting. Even that was lesser in quality compared to what they've done previously. I think before they've either had paintings done or at least had prints that looked like it was a painting. This was like a screen print on a shitty little canvas. I didn't understand it. The tag team tournament continued. 3 matches this week. On Collision, Brodito beat Gates of Agony in the last quarterfinal. This match was nothing overly notable, a B-plus bout, but the finish was spectacular. Bandito basically used Brody King's extended legs as a platform and did a running basement 360-degree splash. This dude is an awesome in-ring performer. I wish AEW would allow him to generate any type of character. Brody too, for that matter. They both flash in the ring, but they don't get any development time otherwise. Where are their promos? Where are their backstage segments? I'd like to see them having fun with one another. It's a smaller luchador and a big burly muscle man, or I don't even want to say muscle man, but he's a big burly dude who I believe is American, I'm going to say. I may be wrong about that, but I mean, I want to see more with these two guys, like backstage, buddy comedy type of shit, or buddy serious type of stuff. Preparing for the match, throwing each other around, whatever the case might be. On Collision, FTR beat Bang Bang Gang in the first semifinal B match. Dax Harwood kicked out after Juice Robinson used Jay White's Blade Runner. The heels then cheated to win via a rollover pinfall. This got real high ratings from fans last week. I thought it was mediocre at best. Also, not overly fond of like tournament semifinals run on the same show as quarterfinals. There should be a level of separation for each round. AEW does this all the time. It always annoys me. On Dynamite, Brodito beat the Young Bucks in a 20-minute semifinal. The Bucks demanded the production team give them proper respect in their entrance. There were more gimmicks done to annoy them, like the concussion sound, only 2 bits of pyro, though, coming out of it. Justin Roberts read their instructions versus like doing the ring announce they wanted. There was Comic Sans font, and I believe a reference to their old Generation Me names from TNA. Fans also chanted jobbers at them. Brodito did the same finisher, or they tried to do the same finisher, but they missed it. Bandito ate a Canadian Destroyer on the back end, and the Bucks botched the hanging double stomp, hitting TK Driver on him for a broken fall. King took out Matt Jackson with a Death Valley Driver on the apron. They did an absurd spot on the barricade that was just like silly. Bandito hit 21 plex for a broken fall, then an avalanche Spanish-style slam for another. This time, they hit their finisher and got the win. Somewhat silly that like a makeshift team beat what is supposed to be the best team in AEW, but it was a fun bout. It was the match of the night, and I guess it made sense from the standpoint that the Bucks are in this really bad place right now. They're trying to figure everything out. Tony Schiavone, I shit you not, called this one of the most incredible tag team matches we've ever seen. And he said, great tag team wrestling is what AEW is all about. First of all,
are you fucking kidding me?
it was a very good TV match. Not a top 20 tag team match in AEW history, let alone wrestling history. Second of all, since when is AEW all about great tag team wrestling? I mean, they've claimed that for 5 years. This division has been dead for more than a year. 4 stars, A-. It got boosted by a crowd that was really hot for the babyfaces. On Dynamite, Adam Copeland backstage cut a promo saying he's okay not being allowed to get hands on FTR because he got a match made next week against Stokely Hathaway. He further related that FTR is not allowed to get involved or their hands-off deal becomes null and void. So he said he'd tear Stoke apart piece by piece and he would enjoy doing it. FTR later said they originally got the ban put in place just to ensure Copeland was alive to take care of his family. Stoke called Cope a bully, saying he's used to being an underdog because he's short, bald, and can't get any hose. He's been fighting his entire life. Best line of 2025 by a mile. From Stoke for sure, maybe in all of AEW.
I like it. I like it a lot.
Then he said Beth Phoenix is the head of a micro brawler, which was also very funny. This could be fun next week. Someone needs to tell Dax he doesn't have to always hold up his finger and point when speaking. On Collision, Roderick Strong was conflicted in a backstage segment with Kyle O'Reilly, who was trying to convince him, I guess, to join the conglomeration. Willow Nightingale, Hologram, and Tomohiro Ishii then walked in, and it kind of devolved from there. Please, for the love of all that is holy, extricate Willow from this group. Why is she stuck doing this unfunny garbage? On Collision, Chris Statlander won a squash match in 90 seconds. This was done so Willow could cross paths with her on her way to the ring. Thekla then beat Willow after that. The Triangle of Madness entrance definitely hit. Distractions played a role. Thekla won. I'm not going to say clean, but definitively. They attacked after the bell. Then Megan Bayne and Penelope Ford joined in on the attack. So you have 5 heels beating the shit out of the most likable woman on the entire roster. No one is running out to help her immediately. Eventually, Queen Aminata and Tay slowly sauntered down to the ring with weapons and chased the heels away. No rush at all. The conglomeration guys came down to check on her as well. Where were they the entire time? They're all friends, right? Were they not watching her match? On Dynamite, Stat backstage acted all friendly and happy-go-lucky while Nightingale and Aminata were talking. Willow wasn't really having it. Stat threw some confetti in the air and then ran away. I'm down for all of this to lead to like a major hardcore feud ending match between them. But the drip, drip, drip of this over the last 2 months, that has been so freaking annoying because we've already been waiting like a year for this match to actually happen. And they're not really getting contentious with one another, you know? So is that joining Death Riders? If so, okay, do it and then beat the shit out of Willow. If not, and she's going to do this type of gimmick, fine, but have Willow get pissed, punch Stat in the face, and give us the match that we're waiting for. Why is this taking so long? On Collision, Skyflight beat Shane Taylor Promotions. This was built through a backstage segment after Callis cut a generic here promo. Taylor stepped to him angry about not getting paid for teaming up previously, so Callis put them in a match saying he could get paid after. What a pushover of a character. You're a heel willing to do more work for another heel despite already not getting paid. Partial credit for creating a reason for this match happening, but it was the worst thing on the entire show. On Collision, Anthony Bowens confronted Billy Gunn for not contacting him after his conflict last week. Bowens was angry because he busted his slump using Max Caster, a match Gunn set up, and he should have been beating Caster's ass with him. Billy walked away since the dude was yelling in his face. Tough to blame him, I would walk away too. Later, we had Caster and Roosh fight to a 5-minute draw in an open challenge, a draw. Commentary told us Roosh didn't care about winning, but despite the time being announced, Roosh seemed angry after the bell that time expired. He hit Bull's horns, tried to cover. The referee was already out of the ring. So the rest of LFI attacks, by the way, Caster's a heel, let's not forget. Security comes out, they attack security. And then Jet Speed and AR Fox saved for reasons. Caster raised a fist at the end, I guess because he survived. It's clearly a double turn attempt. It's also boring as sin. So that wraps up this week from AEW. Once again, outside of the main event, because the main event was great. Collision, a total waste of time. Otherwise, you put that main event match on Dynamite. You add the Athena promo, setting up the deal with Toni Storm. And you take some of that crappy stuff off Dynamite. You put it on Collision. All of a sudden, Dynamite is a picture-perfect show from start to finish. Unfortunately, they didn't do that, and it was still a little bit of a mess as well. But folks, that ends this edition of the Getting Over Wrestling podcast, and it allows the Silver King, fingers crossed, to rest his voice until next Tuesday when we'll be back talking WWE. Don't forget, already in the feed, not 1, not 2, not 3, 4 WWE episodes. Instant analysis from night 1 and night 2 of SummerSlam. Those are separate shows. Your WWE episode from Tuesday, talking about everything that happened on Raw and SmackDown. And of course, an instant reaction show covering the WWE ESPN deal. All of that waiting for you in the podcast feed. You can find us, of course, wherever podcasts can be downloaded. But here at the Getting Over Wrestling podcast, we do want to remind you that this show
It's all about Defy.
So head over to Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Leave a 5-star rating on Apple. Take a little extra time. Leave a 5-star written review. If you do, we will read it live right here on the show. Subscribe to us on YouTube at Getting Overcast. Follow us on social media at Getting Overcast on Twitter, at Getting Over on Blue Sky. And don't forget,
I happen to love the number 5.
I hope you do as well. $5 a month, $50 for the entire year. You can become an official Getting Overhead. Just visit buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. Sign up. You'll get bonus audio, the fastest 5 minutes in professional wrestling, instant reactions to every major show, and exclusive news analysis posts every week. Again, that is buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. That's it for today. That's it for this week. This is the Silver King signing off and leaving you with just 3 final words. Bye for now.